I'm here with Anne Lord Jackson. Hello, Anne.
Hi, it's great to be here.
As ever, it's great to chat about sensory health. How has your week been in Jersey? Have you got some warmer weather now?
Oh, yes. I know it probably doesn't look like it. I've still got my scarves on, but to feel the heat is gorgeous. And talk about like a sensory thing and what it does to your mood. And you can tell everybody's got a spring in their step, literally, because it's like, heat, warmth, just a little bit. And the daffodils. Yes, gorgeous.
Yes, yesterday we lit the fire in our office, which we have been doing every day since, I don't know, October. And then it got hot. The sun came bursting through the back of the house where my office is here. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, the fire's too hot. And we're sweating, thinking, we've got coal in the fire. You can't put a coal fire out. So we just shut the vents and hoped it would just, yeah, but it creates some interesting extremes of sensory stuff.
Oh, extreme, especially like this time of year when it's so like because I was walking here in the shade, freezing, like having to wrap myself up. As soon as I turn the corner and the sun's there, it's just like, oh my goodness, that is warm. It's just like, oh, quite okay, let's open up. It's a hard one to find the balance, and then we've got some individuals who find it so hard already to cope with heat, or to cope with temperature, or to cope with change. The change of what it does to your nervous system that you've got to respond to really, really quickly. That's massively dysregulating for some. It's a hard season for some.
It is. Well, let's go there then. Thinking about temperature. I mean, I remember when we were new parents, you have a small baby and you're always thinking for them because they can't help themselves. They're going to wrap themselves accidentally more than they would take a heat off. So you're checking the temperature, you're up through the night. But of course, if you've got a child with sensory health and they can't control the heat, or perhaps heat is something that is a weakness, then that, until they're two losing your sleep thing is actually going to continue, isn't it?
Yeah, it does continue, and it's hard, especially for parents who aren't aware of this, and that they start to there can be a real conflict can occur between them starting to battle, and you think you've got an overpowering mum telling you to take your coat off or put your jumper on, and little Johnny's absolutely fine. He's not cold. It might be winter, but he genuinely is not feeling the cold, and he does not get sick from not having all these layers on, because actually for him, his body is processing things at a really nice temperature. Or alternatively, so there can be a real, just a real conflict between what the individual feels and what their caregiver feels. And then just to let folks know that this is a real thing, they genuinely may not be able to feel or interpret the sensations, both for positive and for negative. For some, you will have to intervene, and for others, you'll learn that actually just trust where your individual is at and they'll be fine.
In our household, I would say we're all pretty well regulated in terms of sensory health, but I would be a t-shirt man all the year round, including the winter. If I'm going out, okay, maybe I'll stick a coat on. And Stephen, my oldest, would be the same. Nathan, on the other hand, who's only about a year and a half younger than Stephen, he would have jumpers on, slippers, coats, hats, if he could, because he feels the heat differently. Now, he's perfectly sensorily integrated, and yet he feels the temperatures very, very differently.
Yeah, yeah. It's like my son said to me yesterday, he says, I couldn't live any further north, Mum. We were looking at where in the world he might choose to live. And it's just like, it's just cold. Like, I just don't want to go. It's like, it's more than my life is worth to live somewhere that's cold, or that I will feel cold. Mm.
I remember watching a documentary on hot and cold, and it was this person that explored the hottest places in the world, Sahara Desert kind of thing, and then some of the most freezing temperatures, Siberia, for example. And they said one of the things that they discovered was adapting to colder temperatures is much easier physiologically than adapting to hot temperatures, because there's a sort of an upper temperature beyond which our body cannot assimilate to the heat because you can't cool down enough. Whereas if it's too cold, you can keep on adding warmth.
Yes. Yes. And that is hard. And especially when it comes to summertime, we get the most extreme difficulties and challenges in behavior when it's hot, because it is so hard to work out ways of cooling down the body, because we do have a human default position, which if it gets hotter, we are not, we're not going to function well. And, that could be the end of us. So it's like, how can we cool people down? And yeah, make sure that we do that so that their body temperature is genuinely low enough for their physiological function to actually happen.
I'm curious about this from a sensory health. I remember reading a long, long time ago about, I suppose, average temperatures in, let's just call it an office. It doesn't matter, school, whatever, but in an office, what's the best average temperature? Because I've seen the thermostat walls. They make geopolitical situations look quite tame. I want it hotter. I want it warmer. I want it colder. And I do remember distinctly working for an office, lots of glass, and all the guys, there were all of us, we were sweating in our shirts. We had to wear ties, blazers outside in the office. We were allowed off as long as there weren't customers in, and we were sweltering, just pouring of sweat, dehydrated constantly. And two of the women there said, "No, it's cold," and they kept on turning the heating up. And what was most frustrating wasn't there was a difference. One of the managers who stood there, sweat literally pouring off his face. "No, it's fine," he said. "I like the heat, so let them turn the temperature up." But what I'm thinking is, I'm actually dehydrated and struggling to hydrate because of the temperature. Wouldn't it be better to have a lower temperature for everybody? The women who are quite happy there in the little blouses, stick a coat on and a hat and let everybody else actually have a chance of not dying today. But is there like a good temperature upon which it actually is best to have your office so people can get cooler or warmer?
Yeah, I think that's a great one to know, and I shall go with that. Is one I can go away and Google and think of. I know typically between 18 and 21 is a rough guideline, but absolutely I would be more, let's go on the side of cool, A, because it's more helpful for concentration, but also, I mean, if you are wearing just one layer, it's not hard to put another. If you get to the point where you're wearing coats and hats, yeah, not great. We do have an issue there, but you can put one layer on, you can put two layers on, you can put something underneath your blouse, you can put something underneath your skirts, there are ways of layering. And I think it is much better to err on the side of cooler, that you can put layers on rather than having it at a higher point, which is most unsettling and not as helpful for the body. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Fahrenheit is because I'm confused. I work in miles and I work in degrees C. So I'm a
Hmm.
confused generation. But I think the 18 to 20 is about right. I remember as a household, we tend to err towards 18.5. Below that, we start to feel the cold. But generally, our house, we leave the heating on constantly because it's a big old house. If you let it get too cool, then the walls get cold, heating comes on. It actually costs more to heat the house, to heat the rooms and all that. So we kind of have the cooler. And some people have arrived and thought, well, this isn't very warm, is it? It's like, we'll stick a coat on then. We're quite happy, thanks, in our t-shirts.
I have blankets in my household just as a thing. So when people come up, because we have a big old Victorian place, and it's like, well, actually, because we used to layering up according to what season we're in and what the day is doing and how things are going. But yeah, when folks come in, because it's too hard to be able to adapt straight away for people, it's just like, well, yeah, we have blankets, so it's hopefully a little bit more cozy than needing to keep your coat on. But again, it's a bit like, I wish that wasn't the case. And I know that my boys are growing up thinking it will be luxury to live in a house with central heating. It's it's a funny old thing, that one. But yes.
Central heating is only quite new, though, really. Our ability to cope in colder environments is quite normal.
Mm.
It's not that weird.
And my centre, excuse me. The center that I have, I've set the temperature at 16 so that for those, because when you're active, you are, and people are swinging, they're climbing on things, they're in ball pits, we're doing exercises so that the muscles are working and therefore they're generating heat. So I don't want my littlies or my big people to be overheating in a place like that, which I know can be more dysregulating. So I am aware, and I do say to the parents, please do layer up, because the parents are the ones who are still, and if you're sitting in a place that's only 16 degrees, that isn't so comfortable. So no, I don't have blankets there actually, but there is a please be aware that we have a set temperature, exactly the same thing. Also because anybody can come in any time of day or night because of people that are up during the night, and for the sake of the neighbours, it's better to go out somewhere where they can be safe and where you can just have some time out and then go back to the household after. But it is kept at a constant temperature. And hopefully then it won't be too hot when the summer comes, because it gets hot here in the summer.
I mean, I'm a little bit past the ball pit stage. I mean, I'm from nearly 50. My kids are definitely past the ball pit stage. But I remember going, and we'd be cold with a coat and a cup of tea, and they'd be sweating,
Yeah.
just pouring off them in this fairly cold environment. Basically, no
Mm,
heating because why would they bother? And
mm.
it's an old warehouse normally, and they'd be finishing sweating. And you walk out into the winter, and you're thinking, "Oh, I'll wrap up warm," and they're like, "Oh, finally cooling down again," because they're too hot. But that is literally um regulating their temperature, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Which isn't that weird, but it looks odd.
Yeah.
Here's another one that I remember. So I remember going to Guernsey, not far from Jersey, on a holiday, and my oldest son, I'm not going to embarrass him too much, but he had these little tiger feet, from the Winnie the Pooh series, little slippers,
Yeah.
because he was quite young, was a year and a half, a year old or something. But there was another child we kept bumping into who always had no socks and no shoes. And the parents, when people got into conversation, they'd say, "Look, we know they've not got socks on. We know it's cold. We don't put them on because we can't keep them on. Unless we physically sew them onto their feet, those socks and shoes are coming off." And they were lovely. And the child was perfectly happy, but hated stuff on their feet.
Always one of mine. That's what my boys say. Oh, one of yours, mum. It's yeah. That's definitely one of the areas of tactile of his tactile processing that we would want to look at. And then if I see that and if I know that and if I hear that is so common in my world, it's like, oh, could I, what are they like with the tags in their clothes, or what are they like getting their hair cut, or how was toothbrushing when they were growing up? And you can just open and open the conversation to other things. And do they come to hugs on their own terms, or will they let you approach them? All of these little kind of telltales that there might be something more going on in their tactile processing.
Gloves, baby gloves, or mitts. I remember this was another one. Our boys, I think they came into the world with a degree in removing of items of clothing they don't want. Because I remember that literally weeks old, where's the glove gone? And these are tiny little baby mitts because the nails can be quite sharp and they're often the thing. So we stopped using them because it's like, they're going to swallow them, they're going to choke. This is bad. Stop using them. And the midwife says, that's really dangerous. They get very cold hands. Yes, I'd rather cold hands, and they're not cold, by the way. I'd rather that than choking, which is a bigger hazard. And they say you must not trim their nails. So I trimmed the nails and I got rid of the mitts. Everything's fine.
They're funny, those mitts. It's just like, yeah, my boys, is like, how can you do that when you have no coordination to do very little else? It's just
Except
like, how
that.
can you accept that? Perfectly designed. It's like,
Yes, in math, glove off. Right, let's get rid of those. So yeah, I took the mitts off them. We didn't use them anymore. Got insured by the midwife, and I said, don't care. I would rather them have slightly cool hands, which they don't have because we keep a check on them. I'll trim the nails. They can't therefore cut themselves because the nails can be quite sharp, and no choking hazard, which to me was more important.
And there we have parental choice and parental responsibility. So hats off to you, sir, for your taking the initiative and responsibility of your parenting seriously.
Well, you either do what you're told or you use your brain. And the two can coexist, but sometimes your brain has to override. I remember being told by the midwives, my wife was told, you will know better than the midwives and the doctors what your needs are during pregnancy and birth. Make sure you say what you think and feel because you know best because you're the parent. So I just quoted them back at themselves. Well, not from me, but
I'm
anyway, from
sure
Joe.
very graciously and very kindly, because you
Oh,
do.
very lovely. Yes, I know I was fine. Right. Temperature. We're looking, I didn't expect temperature today, but it is sort of an interesting one. If you see somebody out and about and they are sockless 2-year-old child in the winter, what might be a good way of a concerned citizen saying, did you know your child hasn't got socks on, to the parent that probably, because they're not stupid, already knows?
Yes. Well, first off, you probably wouldn't. That would be my first advice. It's just like parents are more than aware. It's like, do they really need somebody else to say? Because they are perfectly, totally aware that this is not the norm. And yes, to have someone else bring it up to them is not maybe not the most helpful. However, I think it would be worth asking more questions if they know, if they've heard, if they've heard me, and that they know that should there be more things that parent brings forth, that they can point them to an area for support. Well, then absolutely do go ahead and ask, and ask if they have, if if you're sitting down there having a conversation, if the conversation happens naturally, that it would be then, are they struggling? Are they struggling with their eating? Because picky eating is another form of that tactile processing. Do they find it difficult to change from one set of clothes into another set of clothes? And so that's that texture side of things. You could go into the whole other temperature things, whether it might be the feel of the socks so they don't keep their socks and shoes on, or is it literally, do they strip off their clothes an awful lot? Is it a temperature thing, or do they think it is a texture thing, and that they might be really fussy about the clothes that they wear? But yes, I would inquire more and ask more curious questions about. That's really interesting, totally non-judgmental, because people feel really keenly, don't they? And any parent feels any sense of any question can be a judgment, and it's very hard. In some ways, you'll never get round it, but at least if you do it as nicely as you possibly can, and saying that actually that there's someone else who's used to coming alongside someone else with those issues. Um, can just ease the conversation to start opening up a bit more, and then you'll get the blur. It'll all come out. If someone feels safe with you, that's when they can start really letting you know what's going on, and the struggles that they do have, and the peculiarities of their child too.
I suspect one of the things in society that we're seeing now, not just the sensory health awareness, which is increasing. We may not call it sensory health, but we're sort of becoming aware of, okay, that child hasn't got socks on. That's not such an abnormal thing. It's just how they're going to process life. Maybe the child just forgot. Maybe the parent forgot to put socks on because, hey, do you know what? They didn't sleep for the last 4 nights because the kid's been crying with teething. But I think it's an interesting point raised that let's not try and diagnose patients unless we're actually a trained professional like you,
Oh, goodness.
because otherwise we're just touting people to feel worse, and all they're going to do is sort of disappear from society more than engage more with it. And the thing I was thinking was how we have a way of doing things. I mean, I think maybe we've talked about this, but when we first had Stephen and we had Peter later on, the advice on front down or front up in the cot when they're first born, that changed. And the problem is, as good as the advice was, it changed. Maybe it's changed again now, I don't know. But sitting them up in a chair or something, I don't know. But this advice changes. But the thing is, we don't necessarily know it's changed. So by child 3, we said, no, we're fine, thanks. We're going to do what we did for the first 2, because you know what? Worked for us. Because otherwise, you're just sort of bouncing from new advice and new wisdom, and it's very confusing and an already tired point of life. However, if you've got an experienced parent, perhaps they might be a good source of information to ask rather than tell.
Ask rather than tell. That is a good point.
Well, I do try. But we've been there. I'm sure you have. We've all been there as parents. You can see that person looking at you thinking, yes, I know they've lost a shoe. We lost a Tigger foot. Well, you can see them looking at, why has he got one shoe on? Well, we don't know where the other one is. And we're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not going to walk into a shop in a park and buy a shoe for my son. It's not going to happen. So don't worry about it. But it's too easy to judge, isn't it?
Yeah, socks get wet as well. And that's the other thing. It's just like, that's worse. What is worse? Either having a wet sock on or just literally just bearing with the cold. And I think most of us would go with, oh, let's take the wet socks off. Let's take the wet clothes off, and let's just be. But yeah, very easy to jump to conclusions.
But best to ask the question. What have you done in the last week? I mean, have you had any lovely stories of somebody who not necessarily is at the end of your help, but has sort of got that light bulb of, oh, this is working. We can go this direction. And that actually is going to help my brother, my father, my daughter, whatever.
Well,
excuse you.
Excuse me for coughing. Yeah, it's just like we can start that again.
It's fine. They'll never notice. It's okay.
Yeah, so I've just got the system is going to lots more parents and teachers and professionals who are having a look and understanding more about sensory issues, and starting to assess the people that they know that they work with. And it's been really lovely. I have one mum, and within the last 2 months, she has just absorbed and absorbed and absorbed. She is in every day. She's pulling out the information. She's reading or she's researching. I normally say, look, 15 minutes a week will take you nicely a good place through the system so that you can get that done. And she's only been in 2 months, and she's pretty much, she's nearly finished the whole thing. I mean, she hasn't had time to implement. So that's actually to change all the activities that her child might do during the day to really analyze and assess what's going on at sleep times, at bedtimes, at handwriting, at homework, at her social, at all of those kind of things. There's lots more time that is needed. But I'm getting all these like feedbacks of like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this makes so much sense. And I'm so glad I'm doing this. And thank you so much for putting this on. And so I don't have a specific, because I don't have the specifics back, but I'm just so encouraged. Yesterday I opened up another feedback, and it's another, oh, another really positive. And it's just like, even if one person, just one person at a time sees something, sees how it connects, empowers them, builds their confidence, helps them to understand their little one or their young person or someone that they're working with so much more, then I'm so happy that's what this is all there for.
Now, the other day, I don't know if you know this, excuse me, it was National Brain Damage Day. So it's a remembering of people who've had brain damage at some point. But what I really loved when we started doing these conversations, one of the very first questions we had was from a person who was not old, but older, okay, more than 40. And that was one of the first questions. And it was to do with sensory health, because I love how sensory health is not just an issue for children or for toddlers or for teenagers. Actually, we all have issues with our sensory health. As we get older, our sensory health is going to change. We lose taste buds, our ability to taste. Well, we're not getting sick. It's changing over time, and that's okay. So we adapt. But I was just remembering this the other day as we looked at I like national days. But remembering one of our first questions was someone, not a young person, not that they're old, being very clear, because he's my friend. But yes, they were older, and actually they were remembering that question of, when you have brain surgery, it's going to cause damage, and actually it's going to affect our ability to remember stuff, which is not an issue of forgetfulness, but the ability to retain information and recall it easily.
Mm. I can't remember specifically what it was, but I do
No.
remember thinking this is great, just coming at it from a different angle right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've been reflecting a little bit because we've done more than 50 of these, and I'm loving where we're going. It's brilliant fun. No intention of stopping them, but I've been reflecting on some of the questions we've had over the last, was it year and a half or so? That was one that came up. And another one was how sensory health can help with people with dementia by using their senses selectively in order to help them remember.
There's so much more work with dementia and that season when you've kind of like you grow through and what you have, the senses are so precious at the end of life. When other things start to disappear off, what you are left with are the senses in their revised way of being, but they are really precious, and especially so when it connects back to who they are, remembering who they are, remembering their experiences, and being able to bring that forth and bring it out, and also to help decrease agitation. That's also a biggie later in life.
As we think about sensory health, when we've covered quite a lot of topics, and I love the variety of the people that we are able effectively to help. But what can we all do this week, this weekend, to, I suppose, feed positively and healthily our own sensory health? We often think about our mental health, take half an hour for quiet, and that's brilliant. But what can we do for our sensory health specifically this weekend?
Yes. Well, this would be really good actually. I yesterday went for a walk. Now that doesn't sound terribly exciting, does it? But it was a specific let's walk in nature, and it is genuinely look at the flowers. I think I am really loving the fact that the daffodils are just coming out in Jersey anyway,
Yep,
or
here
have been
too.
out for a few weeks. Okay, there you go. And so it's find those little things, whether it be wherever you are, what is happening in nature at the moment, and just pay attention, and enjoy the visual, then enjoy the smell. If you can go up to a plant or something and then just focus, enjoy those smells, get out in the fresh air, wrap up if it's cold, remove if it's warm, but just enjoy those basic senses of movement, sight, smells, and maybe you might be listening to something at the same time, you might be chewing, you might want to go for a picnic, and just sit and settle and rest. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Go for a walk for 45 minutes, really get your proprioceptive system engaged. Go for a run if you really want that, and get your internal proprioceptors and your lungs really going for it too. So, but yeah, I would definitely just do something outside for 5-10 minutes minimum this weekend.
If I was smelling the flowers to appreciate them on Jersey, you would hear my reaction to that particular one. Me and smelling flowers, I love the smell. My body doesn't.
Oh, there you go. So find your sensory thumbprint and do that accordingly. I'm telling you
Yes.
what mine is, yeah.
I love the scent of them, but if I get too close, then the scent overwhelms me and I just start sneezing and wheezing. And it's more of probably a physical reaction, I guess. But yeah, I can't, I love the smell of flowers. They're beautiful. But if I get too close and too much in one go, that intensity, you'd hear me in Jersey.
There you go.
Complicated chap. Right. Sensory health. Is a multifaceted thing. It's wonderful if it works well, and if it doesn't work well, it's not so wonderful. But there are things we can do, and people like Anne or Jackson in particular can help you. If people want to know more, couple of takeaways from me for this one. Andy B says, ask, don't tell. If you're seeing somebody with something, please don't diagnose them. Unless you're a trained professional, leave it to people like Anne or Jackson to do that, who probably wouldn't do that in passing. But if you want to know more and to connect with Anne and the sensory thumbprint which she operates, which might tell you don't sniff a flower up close because you'll sneeze and cough and wheeze, then you can go to our website, pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can connect with Anne Lord Jackson for all that she does. Thank you, Anne.
Wonderful. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye for now.